Warning: the following content contains a lot of spoilers. If you don't want to get spoiled, feel free to click off this video and watch a different video of mine. You're free to come back here after you completed the anime. Viewers' discretion is advised. This is such an emotional anime for all the right reasons. When I start talking about the plot, you aren't ready to be emotional, so be aware and start preparing yourself. But before I start explaining, let's get right to the introduction. Cyberpunk Edgerunners is based on the video game Cyberpunk 2077, developed by CD Projekt Red. The video game was released in 2020, while the anime series is still ongoing, with a sequel releasing on fall of this year. It was animated by Studio Trigger, an animation studio that has animated many other animes. Alright, let's get right to the plot. We start the anime with a 17-year-old academy student named David, and David isn't a good student, like he doesn't behave at school and he gets into trouble his whole life. And he does all of this while his mom is having financial issues and is trying to support both him and her. But one day, after his mother picks him up from school for getting in trouble, they get caught in a gang shootout. This causes David's mom to crash and become unconscious. The messed up part about this is that when first aid arrives, they don't treat her wounds since both she and David cannot afford the service. For that, when she arrives at the hospital, she ends up dying from her injuries. This of course makes David extremely sad and alone for a while, until he sees something. The only way he found out his mom was making money was when he saw that she was selling something called, sorry I'm mispronouncing it, Sandevistan. She would sell them on the black market, and she would use this money to help David's academy fees. Speaking of which, there is one still inside his home that hasn't been sold, and he decides to implant it on himself. So he goes to a local ripper doc who knows how to implant Sandevistan onto people's backs. After the surgery, he can do whatever he wants with it. The first and best thing he has done with it is that he went and beat up his bully at the academy, who happens to be the son of the academy's executive, Mr. Tanaka. This would cause David to get expelled from the academy, and he's like, whatever, I don't care, and he moves on. Later, he goes on a subway, and he encounters a woman who steals data from people. The woman's name is Lucy, and when David spotted her stealing data from him, he reacted quickly and confronted her about it. But pretty quickly, David helped Lucy steal data with her, which they left successfully. However, David ended up passing out due to overusing his implant, which is the exact words Doc, the same Ripper Doc, told him not to do when Lucy took David to see Doc. After visiting Doc, Lucy takes David to her place, where Lucy tells David a wish she wants to do one day. She wants to escape the city to go to the moon. She would then take David and herself to a simulation of both of them on the moon together. But the fun cuts short after a group of Edgerunners tries to take David since Lucy was trying to sell him to them. While this is happening, the leader of the Edgerunner group, Main, would also mention how he was a friend of David's mom and bought a Sandevistan from her. David would then hear Main say all that and tell him that he's her son. Main would eventually abandon his plan on taking David and let David speak. David says he wants to be part of Main's gang to prove he isn't useless. Main would give in and let David join. In this gang, we have, of course, Lucy, Main's girlfriend Dorio, Pillard, Kiwi, and Rebecca. To prove David isn't useless, he grabs information from Mr. Tanaka by stealing data from his personal triber and ultimately succeeds. Main even honors him for carrying this out successfully, so David keeps going and he continues hanging out with the gang, such as giving Pillard his package, which Rebecca answers since she is his sister. Speaking of Rebecca, she does target practice with her, he does driving practice with Main, combat training with Dorio, and he does night jogs with Lucy. This man has a lot of time on his hands, and it's fun for him. However, this is where casualties start. One day, after leaving the bar, Pillar confronts a homeless man for urinating. Turns out this homeless man is a cyberpsychosis, and it instantly kills Pillar by exploding his head. The cyberpsychosis would then try to kill Lucy next, but David controls it so Man can take the final blow, and he kills it. After that, David takes Lucy back to her home. This is where Lucy confesses her feelings to David and how on that day they met and were in the simulation on the moon were her true feelings. David then promises Lucy that he would take her to the moon, and they kiss each other. Anyways, some time passes by, and the gang has a plan to capture a known director who directs gruesome films named JK to ambush Mr. Tanaka. So they use David to pose as a fan of JK so Man can capture him, but pretty quickly, JK stops them and kidnaps David. David is with JK for a while until Lucy and Dorio appear and make JK lure Mr. Tanaka with him. So when JK meets up with Mr. Tanaka, the gang captures him. In the middle of the fight, a needle is thrown and it hits JK's neck, which ends up killing him. The next part I would say is a lot to say, so I will shorten it the best way I can. Main has an episode of becoming a cyberpsychosis, and he starts going insane by killing everyone. The two known people he killed were Mr. Tanaka by decapitating him, and Dorio after he started turning into cyberpsychosis. David tries to save Main, but unfortunately for Main, he decides to explode himself, which he ends up doing. Some more time passes, and this is where the ending is near. David's downfall starts happening when he starts going through cyberpsychosis and ends up killing a female staff member. Little did he know that the female staff member was actually a woman who had a son. So after realizing this, he starts feeling regretful and thinks of memories of his mother when she was alive. For this reason, David tells Lucy that he wants to go his separate ways, which they ended up doing after a tough decision. So after Lucy leaves, she is led into a trap made by a fixer named Faraday, and surprisingly, Kiwi. So Faraday now has Lucy hostage with him. This next part is also a lot to explain, so I will break it out simply. Kiwi, Rebecca, Falco, who is another member of Main's gang, and David spots a vehicle that has a cyber skeleton inside. And when Faraday pretends to be Lucy, he brainwashes David to install the cyber skeleton. Pretty quickly, Lucy escapes from Faraday and warns David not to use the cyber skeleton. But David doesn't, and starts using the cyber skeleton to get his revenge on Faraday. So he, Falco, and Rebecca drive to the location where Faraday is located, the Arasaki Tower. Meanwhile, Kiwi betrays Faraday, which causes her to get shot by Faraday himself. Before she dies, she tips David off on where Faraday and Lucy are located, before getting gunned down by Faraday's minions. So David then arrives at the location where Faraday and Lucy are. Little does David know that the most dangerous cyborg is there, Atom Smasher. Before Atom Smasher can hurt David or Lucy, David takes Lucy out of the building and escapes. But just like Main experienced before his death, David starts turning into a cyberpsychosis. Before the fight between David and Atom Smasher starts, Atom Smasher throws Faraday off the building, where he falls to his death. Right after that, Rebecca starts shooting at Atom Smasher, but he ends up crushing her to death. And sadly, as you all know, after David got Lucy and Falco to safety so they can both leave, Atom Smasher beats David up and shoots him in the head, which ends up killing him. In the end, Lucy successfully fulfilled her dreams of traveling to the moon, which means the anime ends with Lucy still extremely brokenhearted that David isn't there with her, making her feel lonely and not with someone she promised to be on the moon with. You should know how emotional this anime became when it came to the ending. It even explains that no matter how much you love something, it won't last forever. Let's move on to the animation. The animation is well detailed. I love the colors they use for this anime and the art style. I hope Studio Trigger can keep this up and continue animating other animes that deserve to have an adaptation and be animated by them. Let's move on to the opening and ending themes. The opening is actually pretty good. The fact that they use a Scottish band song that was released in 2004 is pretty cool to hear. This opening is performed by Franz Ferdinand. The ending is pretty chill and the type of song I can relax to. The lyrics of the song are also relatable due to the events that happen in this anime. This ending is performed by, sorry if I mispronounce his name, David Poshadwo. Let's move on to the voice acting. The voice acting was 3 words: funny, serious, and sad all at the same time. For funny, the humor that was said in the anime made me laugh and enjoy it a lot. For serious, there were a lot of scenes that were in serious situations, such as fight scenes and when characters were in huge trouble. And for sad, whenever the characters died and how others felt, we all had every right to feel sad and feel bad for everyone who was put in those situations. Let's move on to the pacing. I don't like to say this, but the pacing was pretty slow. It's understandable why certain scenes had to be slow, but since I am someone who has trouble paying attention to slow scenes, this anime made me have a hard time paying attention when it was pretty slow. But don't worry, I didn't miss anything important to the anime, and I understand everything that was happening in the anime. Time for my final review. Time for my final review on Cyberpunk Edgerunners. I'm placing Cyberpunk Edgerunners on, feel free to watch it, in between Nana and Blue Lock Season 1. I loved everything about the anime, but when I mentioned that the pacing was slow to me and that I didn't enjoy it, this became the reason why I'm placing it here. Time for my next anime. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Romantic Killer. This was one anime that I only just watched like the first episode and I didn't continue it. But since I remembered that this was an anime that I dropped, I decided to add it to my wheel since I now have a channel about reviewing anime. So why not just put it here? And now this is gonna be my next anime. Alright then, time for my outro. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please leave a like and subscribe. And please follow my socials in the description down below. And since you know what my next anime is going to be, stay tuned for that. Until then, this is Enjeru, signing off.